we shall meet the romantic poet John Keats. He is one of England's most loved poets, though he had a very short publication period. He died of tuberculosis at the age of 25, and he had realized his vocation as a poet just 4 years back. Until then, he was training to be a surgeon's assistant. Writing poetry was not a lucrative job, that is, it did not bring in much money, and he was not much appreciated in his lifetime. He did not think that he would be remembered after his death. The epitaph on his gravestone reads, "Here lies one whose name was writ in water." That is, he felt his life was futile. It would not be remembered. However, he rose to fame after his death and is highly appreciated for his rich and sensuous style of writing. Sensuous means using all the 5 senses. His descriptions are so vivid that you can almost see, smell, hear, taste, and touch what he writes about. He has written a number of sonnets, lyrics, ballads, and is most remembered for his beautiful odes. We had mentioned that Keats was a second-generation romantic poet. The word romantic here is not in the sense of romantic love. It is related to a movement in the arts called romance. That Keats was a second-generation romantic poet. The word romantic here is not in the sense of romantic love. It is related to a movement in the arts called Romanticism. Romanticism was an artistic and intellectual movement in Europe in the late 18th century. It was characterized by a heightened interest in nature, emphasis on the individual's expression of emotion and imagination, and it rebelled against all forms of rules and conventions. In England, Romanticism was initiated by Wordsworth and Coleridge with their collection of poems called the Lyrical Ballads. Wordsworth, Coleridge, and Robert Southey are referred to as the first-generation Romantic poets, and the younger ones, Byron, Shelley, and Keats, are the second generation. The most important features of Romantic poetry are the celebration of nature, beauty, and imagination. The poets were highly subjective and individualistic, and they did not have any respect for rules and constraints. Each of them had their own individual style. They had great reverence for the innocence of childhood and the quality of wonder. Common folk, common people were taken as the subject of poetry. They were fascinated with the medieval, that is the Middle Ages, the supernatural, the exotic and faraway land. The poet was seen as a visionary figure. La Belle Dame Sans Merci is a ballad. What is a ballad? A ballad is a long story poem that generally has the theme of heroes, adventures, or love. In olden days, they were not written down, but sung by bards or singing storytellers as they roamed the countryside, gathering listeners wherever they went. This kind of poetry was revived by the Romantic poets in the 19th century. La Belle Dame Sans Merci is a French phrase. It means the beautiful woman without pity. The poem that we have for study is a narrative poem, and there are 2 speakers, a traveler and a sickly knight. The traveler meets this knight who is roaming all alone in the woods. The knight tells the traveler how he came to be in this miserable state. Here we have the entire poem. You can see that it is composed of 12 stanzas. There are 2 speakers. The first 3 stanzas are the questions of the traveler to the knight he comes across in the woods. He is miserable. The knight is miserable. And the traveler is curious about his condition. He asks, "Oh, what can ail thee, knight-at-arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing." He asks, What causes your suffering? Why are you so pale? Why are you so miserable? Ail means suffering. Thee and thy are old English terms for you and your. So what causes your suffering? Knight at arms. The second character is a knight, a heroic soldier in the service of the king. The knight is wearing a full suit of armor and has his sword with him. But he is all alone, he is very pale, and he is walking so slowly. This arouses the curiosity of our traveler, and he asks the knight what has happened to him. The sedge has withered from the lake. Sedge is a kind of a grass which grows by the lakeside, and it is all dry and decayed. And it's a very spooky scene because there is absolute silence. Not a single bird is singing. The traveler continues with his questions. Oh, what can ail thee, knight at arms, so haggard and so woebegone? Why do you look so tired? Haggard means very tired. And so woebegone. Woebegone is filled with misery, filled with suffering. What makes you so miserable, knight at arms? Granary is full and the harvest is done. It's the season of autumn. The crops have been harvested. Even the animals, the little squirrel has its store full. It's a season of fulfillment, but our poor knight is miserable. What causes your suffering? I see a lily on thy brow, with anguish moist and fever dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose, fast withereth too. So our traveler says he can see a lily on the brow of the knight. That means that the knight's face is so white and pale like the lily flower. And his brow, forehead, is covered with moisture, fever dew, sweat, caused by the heat of his fever. And his cheeks are a fading rose. That is, the color has been drained. His lifeblood has been drained. Our knight seems to be dying of some illness. He is fast withering. Withering means decaying. വല്ലാത്തൊരു വിഷമം തോന്നിക്കുന്ന കാഴ്ചയാണ് ഈ നൈറ്റിൻ്റേത്. ഈ സ്ലൈഡിൽ നമുക്ക് ഒരു ഗ്രാഫിക്കൽ റെപ്രസെൻറ്റേഷൻ കാണാം. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കാണാം നിങ്ങളുടെ മുന്നിൽ നൈറ്റിൻ്റെ സങ്കടം നിറഞ്ഞ നില. The knight replies, I met a lady in the meads, full beautiful, a fairy's child. Her hair was long, her foot was light, and her eyes were wide. This is his reply to the traveler, explaining how he came to be in such a miserable condition. He came across a beautiful lady, a supernatural lady. She is not an ordinary woman, but a supernatural creature, a fairy wild. You can see here in this slide a picture of the lady that he meets. This poem, La Belle Dame Sans Merci, has been the subject of many paintings, some of which you can see in this presentation. The lady is beautiful, she had long hair, she walked very lightly, and her eyes had a special wild attraction. The knight continues, I made a garland for her head, and bracelets too, and fragrant zone. She looked at me as she did love, and made sweet moan. The knight is wholly lost in his love for this beautiful woman, and he makes flower garlands for her hair, hands, her wrists, and her waist. He decorates her with these flower garlands, and she looks at him with love and moans with pleasure. He lifts her up and places her on his pacing steed. I set her on my pacing steed, and nothing else saw all day long. For sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy song. So sitting on the knight's horse, She looks at him with so much love, and our knight is wholly lost in her love. She would bend down to him and sing a beautiful fairy song. This is the scene you can see here in the slide. She found me roots of relish sweet, and honey wild, and manna dew. And sure in language strange she said, I love thee true. So the beautiful woman, she feeds him, nourishes him with strange and exotic foods, roots and fruits and wild honey and manna dew. Manna is the food of the heavens mentioned in the Bible. And in a strange, exotic language, she says, she promises that she will love the knight forever. Again, we have a graphical representation of the scene where the supernatural fairy creature takes our knight to her home in an elfin grot. She took me to her elfin grot. Elf is a supernatural creature which is similar to a fairy, and grot is a cave. She takes him to her elfin grot, and there she wept and sighed full so, and there I shut her wild, wild eyes with kisses full. So when she takes him to her home, she starts crying, weeping, as though she is afraid that the knight will leave her. The knight comforts the beautiful woman, tells her that he will never leave her, and kisses her with passion. Comforted by the kisses, the lady now sings a sweet lullaby. Lullaby is a song meant to put babies to sleep. So she sings him a sweet song which causes the knight to fall asleep. And there she lulled me asleep, and there I dreamed, woe betide, the latest dream I ever dreamed on the cold hillside. So he falls asleep. He says to the traveler, woe betide. He regrets having fallen asleep because now begins his suffering. He has the most terrible dream. La Belle Dame sans Merci, the beautiful woman without pity. She is no ordinary woman. She has achieved her purpose. She has seduced the knight, made love to him, put him to sleep, and is now ready to leave him. She has had her fill of him. Our Lady has exploited the knight. You may compare her to other famous temptresses like the sirens of Greek mythology, who attract sailors at sea with their sweet songs and cause their ships to crash on the cruel, jagged rocks. Or Circe in Homer's Odyssey, who seduces men and turns them into pigs. Or even our own beautiful Yakshi, who waits below a flowering palamaram for unsuspecting travelers and then turns into a ferocious beast who drinks their blood. ഈ സുന്ദരി ആണുങ്ങളെ അരച്ചു കുടിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സ്ത്രീയാണ്. Now she has exploited the knight. She has had a fill of him and is now abandoning him. As the knight awakens from his dream, he is to face the horror of his life left. In his terrible dream, that is a nightmare, the knight comes across strange, misery-ridden figures. We have pale kings, warriors, and princes coming to the knight in his dream. They have wide open mouths and they are crying out a warning to the knight. I saw pale kings and princes too, pale warriors, death pale were they all. They cried, La Belle Dame sans Merci had thee in thrall. I saw their starved lips in the gloam, with horrid warning gaped wide, and I awoke and found me here on the cold hillside. So these figures from the past, the victims, the earlier victims of the lady, they come forward in his dream and tell him that he is in the trap of the lady without mercy. The last stanza of the poem. The knight wakes up from his horrible nightmare, where he had seen the pale princes, warriors, and kings with wide open mouths crying out a warning to the night. Now he wakes up and he finds himself all alone on a cold hillside. He tells the traveler, "And this is why I sojourn here, alone and palely loitering, though the sedge is withered from the lake and no birds sing." This is why he stays here, alone and palely loitering. He is drained of all happiness and charm in life. The supernatural creature, the beautiful woman without pity, has drained him of all beauty in life. He has nothing to look forward to. He is dying. And we have a closure as the lines from the first stanza are repeated again in the last stanza. Though the sedge is withered from the lake and no birds sing, the spooky, scary atmosphere is evoked again. Grass is dry, everything is decaying, there is absolutely no sound of birds singing. It's a sad and miserable scene, and the knight is all alone, left to suffer. He has been drained of everything beautiful in life by the beautiful woman without pity. This sad, tragic, beautiful ballad was written by Keats in 1819, when he had realized that he was going to die of tuberculosis. He was newly engaged to the love of his life, Fanny Braun, and he knew that he would never be able to find fulfillment with her because he would die before her. This poem was written in his passion, in the heat of his passion for his fiancée, with the shadow of an early death looming over him. From his letters, we know that he sometimes resented the pains of love and the loss of freedom it brought. It is in this miserable condition of his mind that we have this beautiful poem being written by Keats. The poem is written in the medieval ballad stanzaic pattern. The setting is medieval. Medieval means the Middle Ages, that is the 12th and the 13th century, an era when you had the kings and you had knights and you believed in supernatural creatures like fairies and monsters and dragons and beasts. The setting is medieval and supernatural, and the protagonist of the poem, that is the beautiful lady, the beautiful woman without pity, is a femme fatale. Femme fatale is a creature who feeds on men for her pleasure, similar to our Yakshi. She attracts lovers only to destroy them. She destroys because it is her nature to destroy. The beautiful woman without pity, La Belle Dame sans Merci. I hope this presentation has helped you to understand the poem better. Thank you for your patient listening.
Thank you, Anuradha. And I'm sure the children would have appreciated the poem, the beauty of the poem. ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ആ യക്ഷിയുടെ ഒരു ഓർമ്മ വരുന്നുണ്ടോ? നമ്മുടെ നീരജ് മാധവന്റെ യക്ഷി വന്നല്ലോ എന്നുള്ളൊരു പാട്ടൊക്കെ ഇല്ലേ? അയ്യോ മലയാള അതെനിക്കത് ആ പാട്ട് ഓർമ്മ. Anyway, I'll do one thing. I'll post the link and see you in the next. മറക്കണ്ട www.englishskills1.com. അത് നോക്കുക, അതിൽ യൂട്യൂബ് വീഡിയോസ് ഉണ്ട്. പിന്നെ അതേപോലെ ലൈവ് ഷെഡ്യൂൾസ്, അതിന് മുകളിലൊരു ബാൻഡ് ഉണ്ട്, ബാൻഡിൽ യൂട്യൂബ് ലൈവ് സെഷൻസ് എഴുതിയിട്ടുണ്ട്, അത് ചെക്ക് ചെയ്യുക. ഇനി റിവിഷൻ വരും ലൈവ് സെഷനിൽ. റിവിഷൻ സെഷൻസ് യൂട്യൂബ് റെക്കോർഡിങ്സ് ആയിട്ട് ഉണ്ടാവില്ല. അതുകൊണ്ട് പ്ലീസ് കീപ് വാച്ചിങ് and keep subscribing to the channel so that you will get more updates. Appum almost on a daily basis നോക്കുക. Thank you very much.